Hello everyone, myself Saumya Grover, Assistant Professor, Jagannath University, Jaipur. So today we'll be talking about models of communication. Now what is a model? A model is an abstracted representation of reality. A good model comes as close to reality as possible and it discusses and explains the reality as clearly as possible. But being an abstraction, a model is not reality. It only represents the reality of communication for better understanding of the communication process. For example, an architectural model of a house is only a representation of the house giving a fair idea of the number of rooms, layout, etc. But it is not the house per se. The discussion that follows explains the importance of model in unraveling the process from an initial simplistic version of communication to a very intricate, complex process of mass communication. A model is a pictorial presentation to show the structure of communication process in which various components, elements are linked. Arrows are used to depict the transmission of messages from communicator to receiver. Models are based upon assumptions that theorists make as to how communication functions and what effect it has upon individual and society. A variety of models exists in all of which strive to explain the different components of communication and the role each part plays in the total process. Some of the important models of communication deal with in this unit are specifically chosen to illustrate how a particular scholar highlights the significance of one or the other elements that are common to every act of communication. Use of communication models. Communication models are frameworks or visual representations that describe the process of communication between a sender and a receiver. They provide a structured approach to understanding how information is transmitted, received, and interpreted in various communication contexts. Here are few common models and their uses. First, let's talk about the limitations of the models. Limitations of communication models. While communication models provide a useful framework for understanding the communication process, it's important to recognize their limitations. Here are some common limitations associated with communication models. Number one, simplification. Communication models often oversimplify the complex and dynamic nature of real life communication. They present a linear or sequential representation of the communication process. We may not accurately capture the intricacies and interdependencies of human communication. In reality, communication involves numerous variables, contextual factors, and feedback loops that cannot be fully captured by a model. Lack of context. Communication models typically do not account for the broader social, cultural, and contextual factors that can significantly influence communication. They may not adequately address the impact of cultural differences power dynamics, environmental factors, or historical context on the communication process. Failing to consider these contextual elements can limit the model's applicability and accuracy in real world situations. Overemphasis on information transfer. Many communication models focus primarily on the transmission of information from sender to receiver. They often neglect the relational, emotional, and nonverbal aspect of communication, which play a vital role in shaping meaning and understanding. By focusing solely on the transmission of messages, these models may overlook the importance of interpersonal dynamics, context, and shared meaning construction. Lack of feedback. Some communication models do not adequately emphasize the role of feedback in the communication process. Communication is a two-way process that involves not only the transmission of messages but also feedback from the receiver. Feedback allows for clarification, confirmation, and adjustment of the message, ensuring effective communication. Models that fail to incorporate feedback overlook a crucial element of the communication process. Cultural and individual variations. Communication models often assume a universal understanding and interpretation of messages, neglecting the significant variations in communication styles, norms, and preferences across cultures and individuals. Different cultures and individuals may have distinct communication patterns, non-verbal cues, and ways of encoding and decoding messages. Ignoring those variations can lead to misunderstandings and communication breakdowns. Static representation. Communication models are static representations of a dynamic process. They freeze the communication process at a particular moment and do not capture the fluidity and evolution of communication over time. In reality, communication is a continuous and ongoing process that can be influenced by changing circumstances, evolving relationships, and new information. Models may not capture the temporal aspect of communication adequately. While communication models have their limitations, they still provide a valuable framework for understanding and analyzing communication processes. It is essential to use these models as a starting point and supplement them with a deeper understanding of the context, cultural factors, feedback loops, and individual differences to achieve effective communication in real life situations. Now, let's discuss about some of the famous models of communication. We'll start with the Aristotle model of communication. Aristotle was the first to take an initiative and design the communication model. Let's go through a simple situation. In a political meeting, the prospective leader delivers to the audience urging for more votes from the constituency. He tries to convince the crowd in the best possible way he can so that he emerges as a winner. What is he actually doing? He is delivering his speech in a manner that the listener would get convinced and cast their votes only in his favor, or in other words, respond in the same manner the speaker wanted to. Here, the leader or the speaker or the sender is the center of attraction, and the crowd simply the passive listeners. The example actually explains the Aristotle model of communication. According to this model, the speaker plays a key role in communication. He is the one who takes complete charge of the communication. The sender first prepares the content, which he does by carefully putting his thoughts in words with an objective of influencing the listeners or the recipients, who would then respond in the sender's desired way. No points in guessing that the content has to be very impressive in this model for the audience or the receivers to get convinced. The model says that the speaker communicates in such a way that the listeners get influenced and respond accordingly. The speaker must be very careful about the selection of words and content in this model of communication. He should understand his target audience and then prepare his speech. Making eye contact with the second party is again a must to create an impact amongst the listeners. Let us again go through the first example. The politician must understand the needs of the people in his constituency, like the need of a shopping mall, better transport system, safety of girls, etc., and then design his speech. His speech should address all the above issues and focus on providing the solutions to their problem to expect maximum votes from them. Voice tone and pitch should also be loud and clear, enough for the people to hear and understand the speech properly. Stammering, getting nervous in between on a conversation must be avoided. Voice modulation also plays a very important role in creating the desired effect. Blank expressions, confused looks, and similar pitch all through the speech make it monotonous and nullify its effect. The speaker should know where to lay more stress, highlight which words to influence the listeners. One will definitely purchase the mobile handset from the store where the salesman gives an impressive demo of the mobile. It depends on the salesman what to speak and how to speak in a manner to influence the listeners so that they respond to him in a way he actually wants. That is, purchase the handset and increase his bill. The Aristotle model of communication is widely accepted and the most common model of communication where the sender sends the information or the message to the receiver to influence them and make them respond and act accordingly. Aristotle model of communication is the golden rule to excel in public speaking, seminars, lectures, where the sender make his point clear by designing an impressive content, passing on the messages to the second party, and they can simply respond accordingly. How a sender is the active member and a receiver is passive one. According to Aristotle, speaker plays an important role in public speaking. He advises speaker to build speech for a different audience on different time or occasions. And for different effects, the speaker must prepare his speech and analyze his audience needs before he delivers his speech. His words should influence audience mind and persuade their thoughts towards him. Shannon and Weaver model of communication. The Shannon-Weaver model is based on the idea that communication is a linear and one-way process that involves six elements. a source, a transmitter, a channel, a receiver, a destination, and noise. The source is the person or entity that has a message to communicate. The transmitter is the device or medium that defines and encodes the message into a signal that can travel through the channel. The source is the person or entity that has a message to communicate. The transmitter is the device or medium that encodes the message into a signal that can travel through the channel. The channel is the path or medium that carries the signal. The transmitter is the device or medium that encodes the message into a signal that can travel through the channel. The channel is the path or medium that carries the signal from the transmitter to the receiver. The receiver is the device or medium that decodes the signal back into a message that can be The destination is the person or entity that receives and interprets the message. Noise is any interference or distortion that affects the quality or clarity of the signal or the message. The Shannon-Weaver model has several advantages for communications planning. First, it provides a simple and clear way to identify and analyze the key process, components and factors of any communication process. It helps to clarify the roles and responsibilities of the sender and the receiver and to evaluate the effectiveness and efficiency of the transmission and reception of the message. Second, it helps to identify and reduce the sources and types of noise that can affect communication, such as physical, semantic, psychological, or cultural noise. It also helps to choose the most appropriate and reliable channel and medium for delivering the message, depending on the context and purpose of communication. Third, it can be applied on various forms and levels of communication, such as interpersonal, group, organizational, mass, or digital communication. It can also be adapted and modified to suit different situations and scenarios, such as crisis communication, public relations, marketing, or education. The challenges of using the Shannon-Weaver model. The Shannon-Weaver model also has some limitations and drawbacks for communications planning. First, it assures that communication is a linear and one-way process that does not involve any feedback or interaction between the sender and the receiver. It does not account for the dynamic and complex nature of communication, where meanings are co-constructed and negotiated through dialogue and feedback loops. It also does that consider the emotional, social, or ethical aspect of communication, such as trust, rapport, empathy, or persuasion. Second, it assumes that the sender and the receiver have the same understanding and interpretation of the message, and that there are no differences in barriers in terms of language, culture, values, or beliefs. It does not acknowledge It does not acknowledge the diversity and multiplicity of meanings and perspectives that can exist in communication, and the potential for misunderstanding, confusion, or conflict. Third, it does not address the challenges and opportunities of communication in the digital era, where communication is mediated by various technologies and platforms that can enhance or hinder communication, such as social media, online forums, or podcasts. Shannon and Weaver model is the most popular model of communication and is widely accepted all over the world. Let us go through the following example to understand the model better. Peter is working as Vice President, Marketing with a reputed multinational firm. He is currently heading Mike, who is in turn of taking off small team. Peter wanted Mike to prepare an exhaustive report on marketing strategies which can be employed to achieve the goals of the organization. He also wanted a detailed study on the competitor's activity by the end of the day. While he was spreading, the company peon interrupted to take the lunch order. Finally, when Mike got the complete information, he in turn delegated the responsibilities to his team members. He tried his level best down to convey what he actually felt. At the end of the day, the team did prepare the report and submitted to Peter, but there were few errors which may rectify later on.